Vanakkam ellorukum, naan Vithusayni Paramanathan. We're here at the Tamil Canadian Walk, Canadian Tamil Congress nadathum the 13th annual walk. Idhula naan oru co-chair ah irukren indha varadam. In the varadam alla varadam madri or local or international charity choose banni nangal fundraise pandranangal. Over the past 12 years, over $500,000 nangal fundraise panni irukram the charities ikallam. And this year we've chosen the Gord Downie Chanie Wenjack fund. நீங்க நினைப்பீங்க இந்த செடி எது என்னத்துக்கான இதை சூஸ் பண்ணிருக்கிறோம் என்ன அவை செய்யறவே என்று இந்த செடி வந்து எங்களை பழங்குடி மக்கள் இந்த நாட்டின் மூத்த குடியினருக்காண்டி தான் இந்த செடி வேலை செஞ்சு கொண்டு வரவ இவை வந்து இண்டிஜினஸ் மக்களுக்கு ஒரு கல்ச்சரல் ரெகக்னிஷன் மற்றும் இண்டிஜினஸ் அண்ட் non-Indigenous peopleக்கு or path towards reconciliation create பண்ணனும் என்று தான் அவை work பண்றவ and they do this through education, awareness and building connections between all peoples of Canada. இந்த வருடம் உங்களுக்கு எல்லாருக்கும் தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும் நிறைய இண்டிஜினஸ் மக்களின் பிள்ளைகள் unmarked graves கண்டுபிடிக்கப்பட்டிருக்கு and over thousands of children's graves were found. So in the varadam especially a very mukkiyamana or cause and idu nanga choose panni varathukku engalukku sariyana privilege because Tamil makkal ஆகிய நாங்கள் எங்கள நாட்டில இருந்து எங்கள லேண்ட விட்டு கொடுத்து எங்கள culture, language and நிறைய நாங்கள் விட்டு கொடுத்துக்கிறோம் and that's exactly what the indigenous community here in Canada has faced. So நிச்சயம் நாங்கள் அவைக்கு ஒரு கை கொடுத்து அவைக்கு ஹெல்ப் பண்ணணும் என்று தான் நாங்கள் இந்த செடியை சூஸ் பண்ணி நாங்கள் இன்றைக்கு இந்த வாக்கில் இருக்கிறோம். So நீங்களும் டொனேட் பண்ண போறீங்கன்னா you can head to www.tamilcanadianwalk.ca and put in your donations there. All donations above $10 will receive a tax receipt right away. And we hope to have your support with calling on the Tamil community to do something. Thank you.
அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். எனது பெயர் சிவன் இளங்கோ. கனடிய தமிழர் பேரவையினது தற்போதைய தலைவர். கனடிய தமிழர் பேரவை கடந்த 13 வருடங்களாக இந்த தமிழ் கனடியன் வாக் என்ற நிதிசேர் நடையை நடத்தி வருகின்றோம். இந்த நிதிசேர் நடையின் மூலம் கிடைக்கப்பெறுகின்ற பணத்தை கனடாவில் உள்ள பல சேரிட்டபிள் நிறுவனங்களுக்காகவும் தாயகத்திலே வடக்கு கிழக்கிலே இருக்கின்ற பல நிறுவனங்களுக்காகவும் வழங்கி வந்திருக்கின்றோம். இந்த வருடம் மிகவும் முக்கியமான ஒரு சேரிட்டி நிறுவனத்திற்காக இந்த நிதிசேர் நடையை நாங்கள் ஒதுங்கீடு செய்திருக்கின்றோம். கோர்ட் டவுனி அண்ட் சானி வெஞ்சக் ஃபண்ட் என்ற நிறுவனம் கனடாவின் ஆதி குடிமக்களினது மேம்பாட்டிற்காகவும் ஆதி குடிமக்களுக்கும் மற்ற இன மக்களுக்கும் இடையிலான புரிந்துணர்வை வளர்த்தெடுப்பதற்காகவும் உழைத்து வருகின்ற ஒரு நிறுவனம். அவர்களுக்கு இந்த நேரத்திலே எங்களால் இயன்ற உதவியை வழங்குவதற்காக இந்த நிதி சேர் நடையை நாங்கள் ஒழுங்கு இருக்கின்றோம். இலங்கையிலே ஒரு பாதிக்கப்பட்ட மக்கள் என்ற முறையிலே ஆதிக்குடி மக்களது வலிகள் அவர்களுக்கு ஏற்பட்ட பாதிப்புகளை எங்களால் புரிந்துணரக்கூடியதாக இருக்கின்றது. அந்த வகையிலே தமிழ் மக்களாகிய நாங்கள் இந்த நாட்டிலே இந்த நிலத்தாலே எல்லோரும் இங்கே குடிமக்களாக வந்து குடியேறி எல்லோரும் பயன்பட்டிருக்கின்றோம். அந்த வகையிலே இது ஒரு எங்களது கடமையாக நினைத்து இந்த நிதிசேர் நடைக்கு எல்லோரும் ஆதரவு அளிக்க வேண்டும் என்று கனடிய தமிழர் பேரவையின் சார்பிலே மிகவும் அன்புடன் கேட்டுக்கொள்கின்றோம். இந்த நிதிசேர் நடை இன்று ஞாயிற்றுக்கிழமை செப்டம்பர் 12ஆம் தேதி தாம்சன் மெமோரியல் பார்க் ஸ்கார்பரோவிலே அமைந்துள்ள தாம்சன் மெமோரியல் பார்க்கில் நடைபெறுகின்றது. இங்கே நேரடியாக வர முடியாதவர்கள் இந்த நிகழ்ச்சி இணையவழி ஊடாகவும் கனடிய தமிழர் பேரவை எனது முகநூல் ஊடாக இது ஒளிபரப்பு செய்யப்படுகின்றது. அவர்கள் மக்கள் தங்களது வீடுகளுக்கு அருகாமையில் தங்களது உறவினர்களுடன் நண்பர்கள் இணைந்து இந்த நிதிசேர் நடையை தாங்களே பங்கு பெற்றுவதன் மூலம் இந்த நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு ஆதரவளிக்க முடியும். www.tamilcanadianwalk.ca என்ற இணையதளத்திற்கு சென்று உங்களால் இயன்ற பங்களிப்பை செய்யுமாறு கனடிய தமிழர் பேரவையின் சார்பிலே உங்கள் அனைவரையும் மீண்டும் ஒரு முறை மிகவும் அன்புடனும் தாழ்மையுடனும் கேட்டுக்கொள்கின்றேன். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.
வணக்கம் எல்லோருக்கும். நான் விதுஷாயினி பரமநாதன். இங்க எங்கள் தமிழ் கனேடியன் வாக் 2021ல இருந்து பேசுறேன். இது கனேடியன் தமிழ் காங்கிரஸ் நடத்தும் ஒரு annual fundraising event. நாங்க இப்ப past 12 years local and international charitiesக்கு fundraise பண்ணிட்டு வரோம். over $500,000 இதுவரைக்கும் fundraise பண்ணி இருக்கிறோம். and இந்த வருடம் நாங்க choose பண்ணி இருக்கிற charity the Downie Wenjack Fund. இது வந்து எங்கள் நாட்டின் மூத்த குடியினர் எங்கள் பழங்குடி மக்களுக்காண்டி வேலை செய்யற ஒரு charity. இவை வந்து they try to build a path towards reconciliation as well as build connections between all peoples of Canada. So Indigenous and non-Indigenous மக்களுக்கு ஒரு relationship build பண்ணணும்ன்ற ஒரு நோக்கத்தோட தான் அவை செய்றவ.
Welcoming all of you in person and remote to the 13th annual Tamil Canadian Walk hosted by Canadian Tamil Congress at this park, which is the Thompson Memorial Park in Scarborough. Every year, the CTC, the Canadian Tamil Congress, helps out with one particular cause, and that's why we do these walks that we can put in our calendars to support. In most years, it's been in person, and over the last 12 years, the walk has raised funds for several Canadian initiatives: the Canadian Heart and Stroke Foundation, the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health, CAMH, the Samper Housing Project, just to name a few. There's been lots more initiatives that have also been helped out through this walk. So this year, the CTC's goal is to support in improving the lives of Indigenous peoples in Canada. And we're doing this by talking about and building awareness of the issues that are going on and the relationships that we need to foster, and embracing these positive cultures and changes that are really coming our way. We're already in the midst of it, and we want to continue to embrace this. Proceeds from this year's walk will go towards supporting the DWF, which is the Downie Wenjack Fund. We're going to give you more background on this, but it's a not-for-profit organization valuing the journey for reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples in Canada. So, on a sobering note, that we all need to recognize, the recent recoveries of unmarked graves of Indigenous children at former residential school sites within Canada, several places in Canada. We started hearing about it in British Columbia. We're just starting to realize this. As Tamil Canadians, we have to encourage each other to identify that people have let us into this country. This is not where we grew up. You know, this is not our country. We were let in here by our neighbors and by Indigenous peoples. So we have this collective responsibility to increase our awareness of what that history involves and what came from this history, and the brutality that really a lot of people are not being heard right now. Okay, so that's what we're here to recognize. Canada's histories and Canada's peoples. There have been lies that have been told to us, truths that have been kept away from us, and we're here to recognize what that is. So let's concentrate on our relationships, spread our learnings today, and really just help each other make a difference, because it's a communal effort. It's not one individual effort, okay? Vithusayni Paramanathan is the other co-chair for this event, myself and her, and we're really excited and hopeful, especially after our talk with Bob Watts a few weeks ago. We're really hopeful that our 13th annual walk will be one to remember. And during this time of feeling a little lost, a little scared, and sometimes we feel like we can't make a difference, let's hope and let's turn to that hope and turn to that positive energy and continue to build some of these connections with each other. So we're going to take it back today. You know, there's a lot of creative stuff going on right now for fundraisers. People are really putting in the efforts to make sure that people are feeling the vibe of fundraising, okay? Because it's so difficult at this time to fundraise and to gain that financial support. But we're going to take it back and we're going to go to the basics. We're going to talk to each other. We're all here gathered today. We're going to listen, take in some fresh air, hopefully keep the rain away, and walk with each other as neighbors, and spend this Sunday morning together for a cause that we can all happily support. So thank you so much again. Right now I'm going to invite someone to help with a Indigenous ceremony. It's a smudging ceremony by Liz Ozalmik, an Anishinaabe from Manitoulin Island, Ontario. She's also a professor at Trent University. So let's welcome Liz. Thank you so much.
Bonjour. My English name is Liz Ozamic. My spirit name is Ginumigwan, which means golden eagle feather. I'm going to just talk a little bit about this, the smudge that we have here. The smudge we use, in ceremony. It's one of our medicines. And I'm going to, the medicine is sage. It grows here on Mother Earth. And it's one of our medicines, 4 medicines that we use in ceremony to cleanse, to purify ourselves from any negativity. And so we wanted to start you off in a good way, with this Tamil Canadian walk. And I say miigwech. Miigwech is thank you in my language. And I forget how you say Nagrio? Nandri, sorry. Nandri. I say Nandri to each and every one of you for walking today. And I'm going to be leaving here shortly we have a walk in Peterborough today to walk for those children that went missing. And so we're doing that today. So the smudge here, we're going to, if anyone wants to take part in the smudge, they could take that, and what you're doing is you're kind of like washing your face with that smudge. You're washing and you're cleansing usually we cleanse our eyes, so you could see beyond seeing, so you could see the beauty in the world. We smudge our ears so we could hear good things, and we smudge our mouth so we could speak good words to one another, and then to to our heart, that we may love one another as human beings. So the mask that I'm wearing here, it has the 4 colors, and that's to represent the 4 races of man. And I say miigwech for my assistant Nicole Vanstone, who will, if you want to come and get a smudge, you can do that as well. So I'm going to, while she's doing that, I'm going to share a prayer in my language. I'll do a prayer in my language, and then you can smudge. Okay? Bujo, ginumigwan dego, makwanden wema amikto dem. Miigwech gishemnedok, kinegego ejmijiang ensigijgak. Miigwech odenekia wabanong, miigwech odenekia kinegego ejmigwang binage wesa megeze. Miigwechge odenekia wabanong, miigwechge jawanong, odesege wawashke shenagdoendang odenekia, miigwetge kinegego. Gege odenekia epangish moknangalbenong, miigwechge kinegego ejmigwe odenekia, memdigeso nimkibene sikmano mishkodebshike. Odenekia giwednong, miigwechge kinegego ejmigwe odenekia, memdigeso Wapshkimakwa. Miigwech kinegoya schwimming nokmes tbekizis. Minage shkakamekwe miigwech gdagom. So I'm just going to translate what I've said. When we do a ceremony or we pray, we pray each and every day, but we acknowledge the 4 directions, and we acknowledge the animals that were here before us. So I appreciate those animal beings that were here, that duck that was walking around blessing this ground. I was amazed to see the duck here this morning. So we acknowledge the animals. We acknowledge the eagle. The eagle is the bird that flies the highest. So he is our messenger to the Creator. We acknowledge the deer in the south. We acknowledge, for the food and the clothing that is provided by the deer, and the deer that shows kindness and caring. We acknowledge the buffalo also providing food and clothing. But also in the west direction, we acknowledge the thunder beings. The thunder beings are, that we need the water to cleanse the earth. And then in the west, we acknowledge the white bear. The white bear, gives us strength. And so we say miigwech, and that healing that comes from the bear, and the medicine that comes from the bear. And we acknowledge the sky being. We acknowledge the sun that shines on us every day. And we acknowledge Grandmother Moon for shining on us once a month, and we have that night light. And also to the star beings, the star Wellum. And then to our mother, the earth, for everything that she provides, all the medicines, all the trees that we need to survive, for that oxygen. And to all the animal life, all animal life that is here for us, to survive. And so I say miigwech, for this event here today, and I, especially the ones that are walking, and I say miigwech. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Liz. Thanks not only to Liz, but everyone else who's here today from the Indigenous communities to embrace our efforts and really encourage us to continue moving forward. I also want to say, for anyone who's interested or want to continue spreading the word as we do things today, that we are being live streamed on the CTC YouTube and Facebook pages. So the Canadian Tamil Congress, if you search on YouTube or on Facebook, you will find that this event is being live streamed, and there's a lot of live streaming going on. Let's now continue the festivities and our morning opening ceremonies, and have a invite Tamira Shankar to sing the Canadian national anthem as well as the Tamil Taivartu to help kick things off. Oh, land acknowledgement? Okay. Sorry about that. I'm actually going to do a bit of a land acknowledgement before we do that. We're acknowledging our presence on land that's been the home of Indigenous peoples and nations long before colonial documentation of time as we know it. Specifically, the Huron Wenjack, the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee people. We continue to live and work here in Takaranto, as we know as Toronto. This territory has been under the Dish with One Spoon Treaty between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, and this is an agreement for peaceful sharing of land and resources. So in that spirit, I'm wishing to share this space with you in person and with our friends joining virtually, as well as our resources and learnings and support from the day. Thank you so much. Now let's bring on Tamira Shankar for the Canadian National Anthem, as well as the Tamil Taivartu. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. வாழ்க நிரந்தரம், வாழ்க தமிழ் மொழி, வாழிய வாழியவே. வானமளந்த தனைத்து மளந்திடும் வன்மொழி வாழியவே. ஏழ்கடல் வைப்பினும் எல்லையகன்று சுடர்க தமிழ்நாடே. வாழ்க தமிழ் மொழி, வாழ்க தமிழ் மொழி, வாழ்க தமிழ் மொழியே. வனமளந்த தனைத்து மளந்திடும் வளர்மொழி வாழியவே தமிழ் மொழி, வாழியவே தமிழ் மொழி, வாழியவே. Thank you. Thank you, Shamira. We're going to get to some short, sweet, but very necessary speeches before we get our walk commencing. And I really appreciate, and we all really appreciate you waiting and being patient with us as we get through the opening ceremonies. Just want to continue sharing the love. So let's bring on the president of the Canadian Tamil Congress, Sivan Ulango, who's been a very important part of putting this walk together and just saying, yes, let's do this, and doing it in the time that we've done it in. So please welcome Mr. Sivan Ilangko.
நன்றி ரம்யா. கனடிய தமிழர் பேரவையினால் நடத்தப்படுகின்ற நிதிசேர் நடைக்கு வருகை தந்து ஆதரவளிக்க வருகை தந்துள்ள உங்கள் அனைவரையும் கனடிய தமிழர் பேரவையின் சார்பில் வரவேற்பதில் மிகவும் மகிழ்ச்சி அடைகின்றேன். இந்த வருடம் மிகவும் முக்கியமான ஒரு நிறுவனத்திற்காக இந்த நிதிசேர் நடையை நாங்கள் ஒழுங்கு செய்திருக்கின்றோம். கோர்ட் டவுனி அண்ட் சானி வெஞ்சாக் ஃபண்ட் கனடிய ஆதிக்குடி மக்களுக்கும் மற்ற இன மக்களுக்கும் இடையிலான ஒரு புரிந்துணர்வை உருவாக்குவதற்காகவும் அவர்களது மேம்பாட்டிற்காகவும் உழைத்து வருகின்ற இந்த உன்னதமான நிறுவனத்திற்கு இந்த நிதி சேர்நடையை ஒழுங்கு செய்வதில் மிகவும் மகிழ்ச்சி அடைகின்றோம், பெருமைப்படுகின்றோம். Thank you, Ramya. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Canadian Tamil Congress, I am pleased to welcome all of you to the 13th annual Tamil Canadian Walk. This year, we are pleased to host the walkathon in support of an important charitable institution, Gord Downie Chanie Wenjack Fund, which aims to build cultural understanding and create a path towards reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people in this country. We at the Canadian Tamil Congress recognize the importance of learning about the history, culture, traditions, and practices of Indigenous people. Therefore, we, in partnership with our affiliated organization, Center for Leadership and Innovation, organize a cultural exchange event to learn about Indigenous culture, practices, and customs. Over 130 Tamil Canadians attended this two-day event in Tayandiana Mohawk territory in March of 2018. Recent discoveries of unmarked graves of children near former residential school have highlighted the need for Canadians to hold Canada and Church accountable for long and hidden history of oppression and discrimination against Indigenous people. Residential school system in Canada was created to isolate Indigenous children from their own culture and religion in order to integrate them into dominant Canadian culture. Residential school system harmed Indigenous children significantly by removing them from their families, depriving them of their native languages, and exposing many of them to various abuses. In light of lack of education on this topic in the wider Canadian community and within the Tamil community, and to support the outstanding work of Gord Downie Chanie Wenjack Fund, we are hosting today's event. As an immigrant community, we have to recognize that we all benefited from the stewardship of the land by Indigenous people. It is our privilege to hold out hands of friendship to Indigenous people in Canada. Canadian Tamil Congress is committed to continue our work to further educate on the history of Indigenous people and support a path towards reconciliations between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. We are proud to partner with Gord Downie Chanie Wenjack Fund in this journey towards reconciliation. We are also very thankful to Mr. Bob Watts, Chairman, and Sarah Midanik, the President and CEO of Gord Downie Chanie Wenjack Fund, for joining us today. On behalf of Canadian Tamil Congress, I want to thank all.
Thank you, Mr. Sivan Ulango. And we're going to continue with the speeches. I'm not going to talk too much in between, but all wonderful information and so much encouragement. So let's hear from more important people. The Tamil Canadian Walk 2021 co-chair, along with myself, is Vithusayni Paramanathan, and she would like to say a few words as well. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good morning. Hope you guys are having a great time so far, mingling with everyone after so long. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's present here today, everyone who's donated so far, some of our elected officials, community leaders, and as well as some of our Indigenous leaders here today. I'd like to thank the CTC team who made this event possible, whether that is our Tamil Canadian Walk core team or all of the volunteers who are here today. We wouldn't all be gathered here today without you guys, so thank you so much. And, it is a very great honor and privilege to be a co-chair at today's event. And I want to thank CTC and Ilangko Uncle for giving me and Ramya the opportunity to be the co-chairs of today's event. So the reason why I wanted to say a few words is you may be wondering why we have chosen the Downie Wenjack Fund, who are they, and, why we've partnered up with them this year. So, நிறைய பேருக்கு இந்த கேள்வியில் இருக்கும்னு நான் நம்புறேன். I know, even my parents themselves, they didn't really know what was happening with the Indigenous community or, what this charity does. So that's why I wanted to explain that a little bit for you today. It's important for us to recognize that there is a long-standing and systemic discrimination against Indigenous people across Canada. And it's not something that's just of our past or just of the history of our country, but something that is ongoing and a current issue even today. Whether it be, water sanitation, climate change, land sovereignty, there's a lot that we need to work towards. I'm sure in May we were all shocked with the news of the recovery of remains of 215 Indigenous children who were students of Canada's largest residential school. After that, a rising tally of these graves, more than 1,100 so far, has triggered a reckoning over Canada's legacy of residential schools. These government-funded boarding schools were part of policy to attempt to assimilate Indigenous children and destroy Indigenous cultures and languages. And thousands of children died in residential schools and their bodies rarely returned home. So many were buried in these neglected graves. And between 1831 and 1996, so that's not even that long ago. A lot of you were alive during that time. Over 150,000 Indigenous children were forced to attend these schools. And in a recent poll that was done in June, it was said that almost 70% of Canadians didn't know or were unaware of the severity of abuses in these residential school systems until the graves were found. So now more than any time is the time to talk about this issue, and we're gathered here today to help increase the awareness of the ongoing challenges faced by Indigenous peoples in Canada, help improve relations between Indigenous and Tamil Canadian communities, and clearly demonstrate our commitment towards reconciliation. We do have to recognize the privilege that we have as an immigrant community, and this also implies that you work towards breaking down these barriers that continue to violate the Indigenous communities. Being an ally requires us to, have social action, be a support network of strength, courage, and humility. As a Tamil community especially, we share the lived experience of giving up our land and being erased from a nation. And we, more than anyone, need to lend a hand and stand with the Indigenous community. So, உங்களுக்கு எல்லாருக்கும் தெரியும், நாங்கள் என்ன, back home experience பண்ணாங்க, எங்களை land விட்டு கொடுத்தாங்க, எங்களோட கலாச்சாரம், எங்களோட மொழி எல்லாத்தையும் விட்டுட்டு தான் நாங்கள் இந்த மண்ணில் வந்து இவ்வளோ பெரிய community இந்த மண்ணில் இருக்கிறோம்டா அதுக்கு நாங்கள் நன்றி சொல்லணும், and அந்த நன்றி எங்கள் Indigenous மக்களுக்கு தான் போய் சேரும். So we really appreciate your help in calling on our Tamil community to do something. Now, the Downie Wenjack Fund is encouraging the journey towards reconciliation by providing access to education on the true history of Indigenous peoples in Canada and the true history and legacy behind the residential schools. They aim to build cultural understanding, and their goal is to improve the lives of Indigenous people by building awareness, education, and connections between all peoples of Canada. So I want to just end off on a note here. On behalf of me and Ramya, we hope that the country and the Tamil community within it will come together to build a much-needed trusting partnership. We have a responsibility to listen to our neighbors and the people who've led us into their country. And it's, it might be difficult to reopen these past wounds, but we have to start somewhere. So let's start here. So thank you so much, everybody who has come out today. And if you haven't donated, you can head over to the registration tables and give your donations, or make a pledge, or even go online to tamilcanadianwalk.ca and hit the donate button. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vidhu, for pointing out the relatability that the Tamil community has. The things that we've experienced in Sri Lanka and generationally, and how we can utilize our history and our understanding of what it feels like to help our neighbors here in Canada, and really the people who've brought us here and allowed us and invited us to be here. Let's now hear from the Gord Downie Chanie Wenjack Fund representative, who's here to give a few words herself. Sarah Midanik is the CEO of DWF. Thank you, Sarah.
Hi there, I'm Sarah Midanik. I'm a member of the Métis Nation of Alberta, and I'm so grateful to be invited here today. And on behalf of the Gord Downie Chanie Wenjack Fund, I just want to extend a heartfelt thank you to the Canadian Tamil Congress and to everyone who's sharing their time with us today and supporting our work here at Downie Wenjack. Just looking out amongst the crowd, I see everyone now has an orange shirt that they're proudly wearing. On September 30th, it is the inaugural National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And so I'm just going to invite everyone to wear your shirt on September 30th to show the support for Indigenous peoples and Indigenous communities as we take the time to reflect and commiserate and commemorate the lives lost in the residential school system and the lasting impacts and effects felt for those who experienced the residential school system. And, to really encourage others to join us on this journey towards reconciliation as we learn the true history in this country, as we understand the lasting impacts, and as we figure out a path forward together. And that path forward involves taking the time to build connections and build bridges and build cultural understanding between communities. And that's what we're doing here today. And we're so grateful for the opportunity to connect and for the commitment from the Tamil community to learn more and to support our work to advance reconciliation in this country. So Marcy, thank you so much. I won't take up any more time because there's a lot of speakers after us, but I would encourage everyone to visit our website at downiewenjack.ca to learn more about our programs. If there's educators in your life, we have free educational tools and resources that you can access through our website. It's all about spreading awareness, education, and connection, and together we are on this path towards reconciliation. Marcy.
Thank you, Sarah. And just as a hub, as a place to go for more information on the Downie Wenjack Fund and direct resources from them, and more information on this walk and to donate, you can go to CanadianTamilCongress.ca. That's your one-stop shop for all the information. Want to also acknowledge the help and support of Sivan Nakkanathan, marketing consultant at Nakkanathan Inc., and the whole community and organizational help over at Nakkanathan Inc. for their support putting this walk together, one of our sponsors. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to join us live in person today, but we're shouting her out because and Nakkanathan Inc. out because it's been incredibly supportive to have their help. Now let's hear, yes, big applause. Thank you. Let's hear from Mary Ng, who is a political candidate for Markham and Thornhill regions for the Liberal Party, a huge supporter of the Tamil community, and again, one of the people who are here front and center to help out today. So thank you.
Well, Vanakkam, everybody, and a very, very good morning. Thank you, Ramya, and thank you, Vidusha, for your tremendous leadership. It is with enormous pride when I look upon both of you co-chairing a wonderful event that is today on the 13th walk. And thank you so much, President Ulango and the CTC for this incredible leadership of bringing together a community. Let me just begin by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional territories of the people of the Anishinaabe, the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nations, and it bears sharing and repeating. But though for those of us who are settlers and immigrants to Canada, it's important to recognize that Indigenous peoples have always been here, and that we all have a role to play in reconciliation. And this work is especially important with the tragic and horrifying news of the confirmation of hundreds of children whose lives were taken at residential schools. And it's important that we recognize the terrible legacy of the residential schools and the role that we all as Canadians have to play in reconciliation efforts moving forward. And it's exactly what brings us here today. The 13th annual Tamil Canadian Walk in support of the Gord Downie Foundation and the Chanie Wenjack Fund. When I look out at this crowd and I think about the diversity that is Canada, diversity is very much a fact here in our country. Inclusiveness is a choice, and this is a choice that all of us here together are making. And I can't think better than CTC in the terrific work that you and your leadership and all of you as volunteers and the community in coming out today in support of this very, very worthwhile work of the, the Charlie Wenjack Fund, as well as the work of the late Gord Downie. And I think that this is where it really starts. It really starts with conversations among our communities, a seeking for a learning and an understanding. As immigrants who are here and welcome to this land, our opportunity to be able to be here and to be a part of a smudging ceremony, to be here with Indigenous peoples, and that sharing of the history that is this country is so important. And I'll speak for my own riding in Markham Thornhill. It's so diverse. And I think I was sharing a little earlier that one of the issues and one of the questions that actually come upon the doorsteps when I'm knocking on doors is a seek and a thirst for a better understanding of the history of Canada and the history that we are only but learning today. And there's much, much more work to be done. And I have had the privilege of serving Markham Thornhill since 2017. I have had the privilege of being around a cabinet table working with Prime Minister Trudeau. And he is absolutely correct, and I agree with him, that the most important relationship to this country is the relationship with the Indigenous people, and to get on a path alongside, together, in collaboration with Indigenous peoples of this country. So I just wanted to really say thank you. I know there are lots of speakers after me, so I don't want to take time, but I really want to just say thank you so much to the CTC. Thank you so much to both the Gord Downie and the Charlie Wenjack Fund. And thank you to both Sarah and to Bob Watts for the terrific leadership and the work that you are doing, and for bringing us all together. And may we all continue in this path of learning and in this discovery, so that we all work towards a Canada that is a Canada of hope and of positivity and of inclusiveness, a genuine inclusiveness. So thank you so very much, everybody.
Mary Ng, everybody, thank you so much. We're going to continue our short and sweet speeches just after my acknowledgement for East FM, who is our media partner for today as well. I just want to stress that, you know, this walk was put together in practically 2 weeks. So the overwhelming amount of support and encouragement and just everybody being here today in whatever capacity you're in, we really, really appreciate it and acknowledge it. Let's hear from Deputy Mayor and Councillor Michael Thompson for the City of Toronto, who's here as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vanakkam. Good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be here. I've been to many of these events of the walk by the CTC and the Tamil community. I want to just simply express my pride and my appreciation to the community. I know that Mary and others have spoken about the need for us to ensure that we respect our Indigenous brothers and sisters and so on, and the land that we are actually are on, and the benefits that have accrued to so many of us from this amazing land, and the injustice and the challenges that our Indigenous brothers and sisters continue to feel and go through in Canada, which is the the envy of the world. But I want to just take a moment and take time to reflect. I've had a 37-year relationship with the Tamil community, 37 years. Before the community was, as we express, a community. In the area of Kennedy and Eglinton, where many of the men who had come from Sri Lanka and who had come from a war-torn environment to make their homes in a new country were challenged. And as young leaders in the community back then, it was up to us to work with them to ensure that they were connected and basically were not afraid. And so what we have is 37 years later, we've seen a complete change. We've seen certainly the creation at the time. The Tamil Congress was not the group that it is now. But what we have is leadership. What we have is a community that's full of vitality, full of strength, as well as recognizing that to those who much has been given, they also have to give back. And the Tamil community has always continued to give back. And the CTC and their leadership has just been phenomenal. And so as we work today and work on the Tamil Canadian walk, and we're raising funds for the Downie and the Wenjack Fund, I think it's really exemplifies the recognition of the Tamil community, that they have gained so much from this country and they're also giving back. And I know that the number is significant as it is, $750,000 to date. There's going to be more, and more is going to benefit all members of the community. But it really speaks to a fine point. The change that we seek, the transformation that we desire for this country and our community has to start from the ground up, has to start with you, has to start with the community. This is indicative of the work that's actually being done by the young leaders and all the leaders in our community. So I think it's really important for you to stand proud and recognize that the changes that we want for Canada and the changes that we want for ourselves will actually have to come from us. I've been to Sri Lanka. I've been to Jaffna. I've seen the mothers who have cried and stood in groups waiting to have answers for their families about where their sons and daughters and husbands and brothers and sisters are. Very much like we've seen with respect to the Indigenous community. Where are our children? Why are they suffering? Why did they just disappear? Nobody knows. Well, we need answers. And I think the answers that we need has to be provided to us because it will make us a better place. And inasmuch as the injustice has been created, us, we're going to bring about that change. It's not just up to government. We have to force the government to make the changes that we need so that we can create a just society, and the injustices that has been perpetrated on so many people, that we will change and transform it. The change comes from us. Nandri, thank you.
What a powerful note to keep in mind at the start of a week and at the start of this amazing cause. Thank you so much to Deputy Mayor and Councillor Michael Thompson for the City of Toronto. We're going to hear from Councillor Jennifer McKelvie for the City of Toronto, incredible supporter of the Tamil community as well. So let's welcome her. Thank you.
Vanakkam. It's interesting to be introduced as a supporter of the Tamil community. I'd also like to say I'm a huge fan, huge fan. To start with, I just want to really thank Danton and Sivan for the opportunity to be here today alongside the Honourable Mary Ng and my counterpart in Ottawa, Gary Nandasangri, couldn't be here, but I'm just so incredibly impressed by him and everything that he's taught me about the Tamil community, and for his strong commitment to the Indigenous people here in Canada, including, I know he worked very hard in his role as parliamentary assistant to ensure that Canada signed on to the UN Declaration of Indigenous Rights. Likewise, it's so great to be here with my colleague, Deputy Mayor Thompson, who has a strong commitment to ending discrimination and creating equal opportunities for everyone. I mentioned I'm a huge fan. I just want to give a shout out and a big congratulations to all of you on some very significant milestones that you've passed this year. Funding to create the Tamil chair at the University of Toronto, Scarborough, just such an amazing thing that you're bringing to our home community in Scarborough Rouge Park. And to be able to preserve language, to preserve culture, but also share that with Canadians. And you know, I just look so very forward to learning more as you go through this journey and this new process there. Likewise, in my community of Scarborough Rouge Park, thanks to the incredible advocacy of the Tamil community, you have secured funding to create the Tamil Community Centre, and thanks to a donation of land from the City of Toronto. I look so forward to working with all of you to bring the Tamil Community Centre to Scarborough Rouge Park, and look forward to when we can cut that ribbon together. As if that's not enough, an accomplishment for a year, you've also pulled off an incredibly successful Tamil Fest despite all of the challenges of a pandemic, and now just 2 weeks later to do this incredible walk. I asked the volunteers earlier if they sleep. They said they do. I don't think they do. I don't think any of you sleep. I think you just work. But then on top of all of the great things that you're doing to now truly embrace reconciliation, and with the funds going to the Downie and Wenjack Foundation, I'm just so incredibly grateful that you're continuing to help others as well. And it was great to meet the CEO, Sarah, this morning, but I do want to take an opportunity to give an enormous shout out of love to my dear friend, Bob Watts, who is their chairman. I know that Bob spoke with all of you recently at an event, and I just want you to know that he is most likely the wisest, humblest, kindest man you can ever meet. And I was so very honored to meet him several years ago, and I'm working as an environmental scientist, and we started talking about how we could better interweave Indigenous knowledge and science together. And, you know, he truly embodies reconciliation. But importantly, he really wants to bring us all along on that journey. And my great-grandmother was an Indigenous orphan. My family did not have the benefit of a strong connection to Mother Earth through Indigenous knowledge, through all of that learning. And so I'm just so very grateful to Bob for taking me on this journey, for teaching me so much, and now extending that journey to all of you. And now we can go on that journey together. And it'll start with this great walk today. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
That was Councillor Jennifer McKelvie for the City of Toronto. Thank you so much. And we're going to go from her notes to hearing from Mr. Bob Watts, a reconciliation practitioner, and anyone who was at the remote event a few weeks ago, hearing a 45-minute address from Mr. Watts will have been a changed human being, because that's what my experience was. It was incredible to just go from this kind of, you know, sad and upsetting tone to hearing him speak and talk about hope. And that is really what kicked off even this walk for us and being able to put it together. So thank you to Mr. Watts and Just wanted to give you some background on him. He's a much sought-after expert in the Indigenous policy negotiations, training, and conflict resolutions. He's the former interim executive director of the Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which examined and made recommendations regarding the Indian residential school era and its legacy. Bob led the process, supported by an excellent team, in his words, and many organizations from across Canada and internationally to create the policies and processes in order to firmly establish the Commission. Bob is the Vice President of Indigenous Relations at the NWMO and an adjunct professor and distinct fellow at Queen's University in Kingston, where he developed one of the first graduate-level courses on reconciliation. He's also the chair of the Downie Wenjack Fund and chair of Reconciliation Canada. He's going to tell you maybe more a bit about himself, but let's bring him on.
Thank you for that kind introduction. Bonjour, Sego, Ani, Kanoshumak, Megazi Indigenous, Makwadodum. So my name is Bob Watts, and I'm from the Bear Clan. It's really good to see all of you. I want to acknowledge Liz Ozamek and her helpers for that ceremony this morning to bring our hearts and our spirits all together as one and to start this in the very, very best way that we know how. I want to acknowledge Sivan and co-chairs and all the volunteers that put today together. It's so good to see this sea of orange out here and to see all these smiling faces. And just want to say nandri to all of you for your hard work and your dedication. I want to acknowledge Jen for, thanks for those great words, Jen. You just broke my heart. You really touched me. You know, this is important. On everybody's shirt, it says, do something. And that's what Gord Downie talked about. And that's really what our fund talks about, is just do something. And we can all do something to promote reconciliation, to promote greater understanding amongst the diverse peoples of this country. I was so honored a couple of weeks ago to be asked by Maliha and Sivan and the other organizers for that talk that I was able to give on reconciliation, and to see just in such a short while how you've done something really incredible to pull this together just makes me so happy, and I'm just thrilled that the Tamil community has responded the way you have. We have a lot of work to do in this country. We have to create understanding. You know, I think when the report from the Truth and Reconciliation got released, everybody was excited about reconciliation, and we forgot a little bit about the truth. And now the spirits of all these young children who never return home, they're reminding us about these truths. And there's been millions of tears cried by Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. Some people are angry, some people are sad, some people are just wondering, what can we do? And we all have something that we can do to move things forward. I'm really happy that you're doing a walkathon. One of the elders that I work with, I was asking her, I said, what will be some signs of reconciliation? And she said, when the people that have come here from all over the world love this land as much as we do, that's going to be reconciliation. And so we're all gathered on this land together. And we all have a duty and a responsibility towards the land. But we all have a duty and responsibility towards each other in terms of the type of society and community that we can build by working together. And it starts with spirit, like what Liz Ozamek talked about this morning. She talked about love, talked about kindness, all those qualities and values that can help bind us together in this country. So we're walking together on a journey of reconciliation. And I just want to acknowledge all the young people in particular who are here. And because that's our future, that's our hope, is all these young people. I'm so happy, so happy to see all these young people, because you represent hope. And if there's one thing that we need when we're facing some of these really tough truths, is we need hope. And you give us hope and you give us inspiration. So let's have a beautiful time together. Let's enjoy this walk. And let's make this not just a one-time event. Let's cement a bond with each other, the Tamil community, the Indigenous community, and let's bring other communities into our circle and strengthen this circle every chance we get. Chimigwech, Nyago, Nandri.
Bob Watts, everybody. Before we get to our warm-ups, because we're so close, we're this close to getting on our walk, and really appreciate all of your patience and acknowledgement of how important this event is to us. So before we get to the warm-up activities, which is going to be super fun, led by James Chanie, I want to, and all of us at CTC want to acknowledge the presence of Indigenous peoples here at this event today. It's incredibly wonderful to have Liz help out with the smudging ceremony and her colleagues and friends here since, I want to say the dawn hours, but 8:30 to help out with everything. So if you can please come up and we can just hugely acknowledge you for your presence. And Sarah and Mr. Watts, and maybe get in a group photo. Big round of applause, everybody. Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you. And without further ado, let's get to warming up our muscles and our legs. And maybe some of you walked every day and some of us not really. So to help us out a little bit, we have James Chanie joining us to lead some warm-up and stretches. He's the lead strength and neuro coach at My Cure Fitness with a background in neuroscience, which I find awesome. He focuses on behavioral modification and strength and conditioning to create habits that optimize strength and wellness for life. So huge shout out to James, and let's bring him on so he can help us stretch out. Oh, sorry. I did this every time. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Good morning, everybody. I know that everybody is a little bit crowded right now, but I'm hoping that we can get everybody a little spaced out before I start the speech about how we need to stretch out. So, but not with the speaking. We'll do some movements. So if I can get everybody to kind of just space out a little bit so we can have some movements, get some stretching happening before we start our walk. Thank you for CTC for having me here. Leading this stretch. I think that through the pandemic, we all realized how important movement was from all of the non-movement that we were doing. So I'm hoping that we can get a good stretch on before we start our walk. So everybody's good? This is the most crowd I've seen since like before pandemic, so this is great. Okay, so let me just start off. I'm going to put the mic down. If I do need to kind of give out more instructions, I will get the mic. But most likely, you'll just see me, you'll follow through, and then it'll be all good. Okay? Let's go from here.
The upper stretches, just hold your head down. About a 10-minute stretch. So I do this, put my hand behind my back. Yes.
Good. That was amazing. Thank you, everybody. Like I always say, community health is personal health. We represent the community, each and individual one of us, right? So I think that it's paramount that this is something that we institute into our lifestyles and make sure that we take care of ourselves so we can take care of the community. Thank you again for CTC and this great initiative. Honored to be here. Thank you.
Johnny, who is helping us kick off our walk by helping the warm-up session, and now we're all stretched out, ready to get walking. Please do stay with us till the end. It's a very short walk today with the limitations and the restrictions, but we won't focus on that, so help us walk around the park. It's not going to be long at all, and thank you for sticking around this long. Please remember to donate. We still have our donation table here if you want to donate in person. The other option, if you want to share with friends and family, is by donating online. Going to our website, CanadianTamilCongress.ca. Find all the details there. You can click donate directly on that site, CanadianTamilCongress.ca. I'm one of the co-chairs for this year's walk, Ramya Amuthan. Thanks for joining us for the opening ceremonies. Let's get walking.
Not 2 meters apart, keep your mask on. If you're not 2 meters apart, keep your mask on. Please social distance. Thank you. Everybody over here, back of the line. Space conditioning.
How's everybody feeling after the walk? Good? I don't think everybody's here yet. How's everybody feeling after the walk? You feel like you walked for a cause? There was a really good hill. I think we all felt it. I'm going to introduce Juanita Nathan to the stage, York Region School Board Trustee, to say a few words and get things wrapped up.
Well, I want to thank you all for participating in the walk today because it was a very important cause, and I really appreciate everyone who came here so early. And also, this is the first time in 13 years we just went around the park. So we usually walk outside on the road, and it's very much an event that we look forward to do this. So I'm here today to ask you all to open your hearts and open your wallets and make sure you give from your heart. This is a very important cause. Tamilara irukra engalukku thaan idha value ummeya theriyum indha பழங்குடி மக்கள் எப்படியான ஒரு வழிகளால போய்கொண்டிருக்கிறாங்கன்றது எங்களால முற்றிலுமாக உணரக்கூடிய ஒரு விஷயம். இதனால் உங்களுக்கு எவ்வளவு இந்த காசுக்கு கொடுக்கலுமோ அதை கட்டாயம் தயவு செய்து இன்றைக்கு கொடுங்க என்று கேட்டுக்கொள்கின்றோம். இப்ப நாங்க வழக்கமா சில ப்ராஜெக்ட்ஸுக்கு 100,000 ரேஸ் பண்ணி இருக்கிறோம், 75,000 ரேஸ் பண்ணி இருக்கிறோம், 50,000, 35,000 ஆகலம் குறைய நினைக்கிறேன் 40,000 தான் ரேஸ் பண்ணி இருக்கிறோம் இதுக்கு முதல்ல. சோ நாங்கள் இது கிட்டத்தட்ட எங்களுக்கே நாங்க காசு கொடுக்கிற மாதிரியான ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்ட், ரைட்? இப்ப நாங்கள் எந்த நிலைமையில இருக்கிறோமோ அதே நிலைமையில தான் பழங்குடி மக்கள் இருக்கணும். இன்றைக்கு எத்தனையோ பிள்ளைகளை இழந்து இனி இல்லையன்ற வழிகளுக்குள்ள இருக்கினம் எங்களால மட்டும்தான் அவர்களுடைய வலியை புரிஞ்சு கொள்ளக்கூடியதாக இருக்கும். சோ தயவு செய்து நீங்கள் டொனேட் பண்ணி இருந்தீங்கள் என்றால் உங்களுக்கு நன்றி, மனப்பூர்வமான நன்றி. உங்களுடைய குடும்பத்தார், அக்கம் பக்கம் சுற்றா இருக்கிறார்கள், மற்றது உங்களோட ரிலேட்டிவ்ஸ், ஃபேமிலி மெம்பர்ஸ் எல்லார்ட்டையும் இதை பற்றி இன்றைக்கு போய் சொல்லி ஒரு கொஞ்சம் காசாவது அவர்களுக்குள்ளால வந்ததுண்டா. இந்த 30ஆம் தேதி வரையும் இந்த ப்ராஜெக்ட் ஓடும். உங்கள் எல்லாருக்கும் தெரியும், செப்டம்பர் 30th வந்து ஒரு நேஷனல் ஹாலிடேயாக போன ஜூன்ல அறிவிக்கப்பட்டது லிபரல் கவர்மெண்டால. சோ உங்கள் எல்லாருக்கும் ஒரு எக்ஸ்ட்ராவா ஒரு ஹாலிடே வந்திருக்கு. இவ்வளவு காலம் உங்களுக்கு 8 ஹாலிடே இருந்தது நேஷனல் ஹாலிடே, இப்போ 9 ஹாலிடே வந்திருக்கு. சோ இட்ஸ் a day off for all the families, செப்டம்பர் 30th. சோ தயவு செய்து 30ஆம் தேதி வரை உங்களுக்கு தவணை இருக்குது. நீங்கள் கனேடியன் tamilcanadianwalk.ca போய் நீங்க டொனேட் பண்ணக்கூடியதாக இருக்கும். உங்களுக்கு உடனடியாக டாக்ஸ் ரிசீட் கிடைக்கும் அதுக்குள்ளாலேயே. சோ இந்த நீங்க கொடுக்கிற டொனேஷனுக்கான பட்டுச்சீட்டு உங்களுக்கு தரப்படும். சோ அதை பற்றி வரி பண்ண வேணாம். நீங்கள் உங்களுடைய டொனேஷனை தயவு செய்து கொடுங்க. மற்றது எத்தனை பேர் இன்னும் கூட காசு சேர்த்து இந்த ப்ராஜெக்டுக்கு கொடுக்கலாம்னு நினைக்கிறீங்களோ ஒரு கை உயர்த்துங்கள். நீங்கள் எத்தனை பேர் இன்றைக்கு போய் ஆக்களோட கதைப்பீங்க இதை பற்றி என்று? வெரி குட், வெரி குட், தேங்க்யூ சோ மச். கணக்க பேர் இதுல இன்ட்ரெஸ்டா இருக்கிறீங்க. இட்ஸ் an important project. Please encourage your kids to talk about it with their cousins. and நீங்களும் உங்களோட வேலை செய்யற இடங்கள்ல உங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்ச ஆக்களோட இதை பற்றி கதைச்சு உங்களால ஏண்ட அளவு ஃபண்டிங்க கொடுங்க. யாராவது இதுல முன் வந்து இன்றைக்கு பிளட்ஜ் பண்றதுக்கு விருப்பமா இருக்கிறீங்களா? காசு கூடுதலா இங்க இருக்கிறாக்கள் எல்லாரும் ஓரளவு அமௌண்ட் கொடுத்திருப்பீங்க. பட் இஸ் தேர் somebody who wants to pledge $100 that they would collect and give at least by September 30th? Can I see hand up for somebody who could collect $100 and give by September 30th? Oh, thank you so much. I had to bear. Oh, Nathan uncle, thank you so much. Nathan Sridharan, thank you for pledging. Vararam, anybody else want to pledge some more money that they would like to collect and give? நீங்களா கொடுக்கணும் இல்ல வேறாக்கள்ட்ட வேண்டி கொடுக்க கூடியதாக இருக்கும். Thank you so much. So I don't want to put anybody on the spot. I know lots of people who are here have already donated, but please encourage others to donate. And உங்களாலையும் எவ்வளவுக்கு இன்னும் கொடுக்கலுமோ அவ்வளவுக்கு கொடுங்க. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we want to thank, as Juanita Nathan has said, so many of you have already donated and have come out today in support of walking with us. I think I felt a raindrop. Anyway, encouragement in walking with us, but also with your financial support, we're able to push this reconciliation and our kindness forward to help the Indigenous communities. So thank you for everyone who's made any kind of donation at all. So we really appreciate it, and we hope that you continue to spread the word with your friends and family. We have until September 30th to continue making donations ahead of the Downie Wenjack Fund event that they have on the 30th. But my friend and co-chair Vidhu is going to give us some more shout-outs right now for people who've made some very significant donations.
Thanks, Ramya. So thank you everyone for coming out today. We just wanted to say thank you to, like Ramya said, some of our big donors. So we've had a couple of people donate $500. That's Mr. Sivan Sridharan, Nimal Vinayagamurthy, Umesh Vallipuram, Dr. Kan Chandra, and the Tamil National Alliance of Canada, alongside the Canadian Caribbean Cultural Association of Durham, and Mr. Shankar Nallatambi. We also had the Cocoville Hindu College Old Students Association of Canada donate $800 today. And another one of our big donors is CTS Building Supplies Limited. The director, Vijay Kones, he has donated $1,500. So thank you so much to you guys who have donated so far. There is a registration table still open. So if you wanted to donate right now, or you can make a pledge and then we can collect it from you later, that you can do that as well. And then we can give you a shout out here too. Thank you so much.
We're going to keep the shout outs going because we're almost at the end of our morning, and it's literally true as well as we're reaching noon. But I want to thank everyone who's made some kind of contribution today to help with this event. We heard from Juanita just before we got on right now. We also heard from Liz and her colleagues and friends for the smudging ceremony, Sarah and Bob Watts, Sarah as well as Bob Watts joining us to give some speeches. We heard from Tamira Shankar, who sang our Canadian national anthem as well as the Tamartai Varte. We heard from James Jana, who helped us warm up for this very nice walk. We also heard from Michael Thompson, our Deputy Mayor for Toronto, Jen McKelvie, Councillor, as well as Mary Ng, Councillor. Also, Pat Kunde for arranging all the audio equipment and sound equipment for us today. Thank you so much. We also want to shout out Subha Naganathan and his support with Marketing Inc. as well as just in general being there for us for the event. And we want to hear from some media sponsors who have been super helpful for getting the word out today, for helping us promote in that 2-week crunch time that I keep mentioning. So Vidhu's going to tell us more about them.
So first of all, I'd like to thank East FM, our media partner for this event. Thank you so much for coming on board and helping us out today, not just with event promotions. We had interviews with them, and they're here live for some coverage. And then I also want to thank Good Evening Canada. We've had some promotions through them. Anale Express, Vanakam TV, Krishna Live Telecast, Ninevigo, Tamil event photos, and Easy 24 News. Thank you everyone for coming out today and supporting us for this event. If we've missed anyone, please come and let us know and we will announce you as well. At this moment, I also want to say we did have 2 anonymous donors who didn't want to mention their names, but they both donated $1,000 each. So thank you so much to you guys. At this point, we're close to $16,000 as of today in terms of donations. And like we said, we'll be collecting at the donation table still, as well as on the Canada Helps website. It will be open till September 30th. So we will be continuing to collect donations, and we are so thankful for your support in our path towards reconciliation.
CanadianTamilCongress.ca if you want to continue, and we do encourage you to continue supporting not only us but the Downie Wenjack funds. Volunteers, partner organizations, media, sponsors, donors, everybody, thank you so much for helping us with this cause today. As the rain comes up, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you to everyone from the Downie Wenjack